I gave some suggestions. I thought it was good.
O eternal and almighty God, from whom all power and wisdom come, we are assembled here before thee to frame such laws as may tend to the welfare and prosperity of our province. Grant, O merciful God, we pray thee, that we may desire only that which is in accordance with thy will, and that we may seek it with wisdom, know it with certainty, and accomplish it perfectly. For the glory and honor of thy name, and for the welfare of all our people. Amen. We acknowledge we are gathered on Treaty 1 territory, and that Manitoba is located on the treaty territories and ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe, Anishinaabe, Dakota Oiete, Dene Sulene, and Neothoic nations. We acknowledge Manitoba is located on the homeland of the Red River Métis. We acknowledge northern Manitoba includes lands that were and are the ancestral lands of the Inuit. We respect the spirit and intent of treaties and treaty making, and remain committed to working in partnership with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people in the spirit of truth, reconciliation, and collaboration. Please be seated. The official opposition House Leader.
On a matter of privilege.
The official opposition House Leader on a matter of privilege.
Honorable Speaker, a matter of privilege is a very serious matter. It should not be raised often or lightly. I rise on an important matter that relates to the deliberate misleading of the House, which occurred in question period this past Friday, November 24th. During those proceedings, the First Minister, in responding to a question, put false information on the record. Information that he would have personally known to be incorrect, as it related specifically to his office and his directions. As is well known by you and others, Honorable Speaker, deliberately misleading the House is a specific and serious violation of privileges, as it is noted on page 83 of the House of Commons Procedures and Practice. It strikes at the heart of the ability for all honorable members to perform their duties, as we specifically rely on the information that is provided in this House to act on matters important to our individual constituents and Manitobans collectively. As the first test is one of timeliness, I submit to you, Honorable Speaker, that this was my earliest opportunity to raise this matter, as it is the first opportunity after which Hansard could be reviewed following the last question period of November 24th. I wanted to review Hansard and the video broadcast to confirm what was said, as well as confirm the facts that I will now outline. During that question period, the Premier accused the Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition of firing Michael Swiston from the Economic Development Secretariat. Specifically, and I quote the Premier, "Let the record show it was the leader of the opposition and her clerk that fired the people that she is referring to."
Wow.
On its face, Honorable Speaker, this is absurd, and it was the new government that was removing senior officials from roles as they were sworn into office. After conferring with individuals who are privy to the timelines, we can confirm that it was the NDP Chief of Staff acting on directions of the Premier who, within hours of the new Premier taking the oath of office, fired Michael Swiston. There were HR representatives who were witness to this firing, as well as following the new government taking office. It is clear that the Premier's statement on Friday deliberately misled the House. I am very concerned of the careless accusations that the Premier is making to discredit our leader. The Premier needs to apologize to our leader as well as to be held accountable for his false accusations. So as a result, I move, seconded by the MLA from Steinbach, that this House condemn the Premier for deliberately misleading the Legislature, and that this matter immediately be referred to a permanent standing committee of this House for investigation. Thank you.
Here. Good job.
Before recognizing any other members to speak, I would remind the House that remarks at this time by honourable members are limited to strictly relevant comments about whether the alleged matter of privilege has been raised at the earliest opportunity and whether a prima facie case has been established. The Honourable First Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The former clerk of the Executive Council, the leader of the opposition's clerk, is the one who recommended we disbanded EDBS and fire the people that they named. I assume that she did so on the advice of the leader of the opposition. October 17th, before we were sworn in, is when those people were informed that they were being terminated. These are the facts of the matter. Clearly, there is a dispute over the facts. That's all this is. This is not a matter of privilege. This is a dispute over the facts. Well said.
A matter of privilege is a serious concern, and I'm going to take this matter under advisement to consult with the authorities and will return to the House with a ruling. Routine proceedings. All right. Introduction of bills. The Honourable First Minister.
I move, seconded by the Minister of Families, that Bill Number 4, the Employment Standards Code Amendment and Interpretation Amendment Act, Orange Shirt Day, loi modifiant le Code des normes d'emploi et la loi d'interprétation, Journée du chandail orange, be now read a first time.
It's been moved by the Honourable First Minister, seconded by the Honourable Minister of Families, that Bill Number 4, the Employment Standards Code Amendment and Interpretation Act, Orange Shirt Day, be now read a first time. The Honourable First Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. This bill is an important step forward in the journey of reconciliation for all Manitobans. It fulfills one of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission calls to action, and in particular, it ensures that every child in Manitoba will be able to participate in the next Orange Shirt Day, no matter where their parents live. Or where their parents work, rather. That's inclusive of folks who work in manufacturing, construction, and any other provincially regulated workplace. I look forward to the support of every MLA in this chamber to ensure that this passes before the winter break.
Is it the pleasure of the House to adopt the motion? Agreed, and so ordered. Committee reports. Tabling of reports. The Honorable Minister of, just one second, the Honorable Minister of the Honorable Minister of Municipal and Northern Relations, Indigenous Economic Development.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I am pleased to table the following 2022-2023 reports for the Manitoba Municipal Relations, Manitoba Indigenous Reconciliation and Northern Relations, the Manitoba Water Services Board, the Community's Economic Development Fund. I am also pleased to table a 2022 report for the Manitoba Municipal Board.
No further reports. Ministerial statements, and I would indicate that the required 90 minutes notice prior to routine proceedings was provided in accordance with Rule 27 sub 2. The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker. November is Financial Literacy Month, which is an opportunity for all Manitoba families to assess their personal financial situation and consider how they can improve their financial well-being. Financial literacy means having the skills and knowledge to make informed decisions about managing your money. More than ever, during a time of rising interest rates and persistent inflation, these skills are crucial in helping people navigate these challenging times. Being financially literate can help Manitobans in many ways. First, it empowers individuals to take control of their financial future, make informed choices, and avoid financial pitfalls. Two, it enhances overall well-being by reducing financial stress and anxiety through better financial planning and decision-making. Three, it helps protect consumers from financial fraud, scams, and predatory lending practices by enabling them to recognize and avoid such risks. It is more important than ever to be aware of the incredible number of financial frauds and scams operating in Manitoba and around the world. We need to protect each other from losing our hard-earned money. We must know where to turn for help and make sure that we do our homework. So where do we turn to find useful financial literacy information? Financial literacy learning is a lifelong process in which governments, educational institutions, non-governmental organizations, financial institutions, and families and friends play key roles. Financial Literacy Month highlights educational sessions, workshops, and information that is readily available to the public and in many instances free of charge. The Manitoba Financial Services Agency has several initiatives in this area. These include a series of podcasts on fraud prevention and intergenerational discussions on money, as well as partnering with local media during this year's Financial Literacy Month. In addition, the MFSA issues investor alerts on a regular basis to warn the public about current frauds and investment risks. The agency has also made available a brochure called My Personal Affairs Record Keeper, a document where you can put financial information such as where you bank, where you invest your money, who holds your mortgage, and if you have a life insurance policy, etc. Navigating the financial world can be daunting for many people. This is why being financially literate is so important. It leads to sound decision-making, better financial well-being, and ultimately increased peace of mind. Finally, our government is doing our part to help Manitobans deal with rising costs by cutting the provincial fuel tax for at least 6 months to help put more money in your pocket. We've also committed to freezing Manitoba hydro rates because Manitobans should not have to choose between paying for groceries or hydro. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Fort White.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I am proud today to rise to mark Financial Literacy Month. According to the Canadian government, this year's campaign theme, Managing Your Money in a Changing World. This month, we encourage all Manitobans to get their financial advice from trustworthy sources and speaking with their banks. With the right education, support, tools, and resources, Manitobans can make plans to improve their ability to achieve their financial goals. I am proud to be a part of the previous PC government where under the former Minister of Education, now the proud Honourable Member for Lac du Bonny, did just that and introduced a financial literacy program to over 1,500 students in the 2023-24 school year. More and more Manitobans and Canadians are having trouble making ends meet. Their mortgages rates are going up, food prices are getting too high, carbon taxes making life less affordable. The NDP government here in Manitoba has already shown a lack of financial literacy. Budgets do not balance themselves, contrary to what the NDP and Liberals think. The NDP government wants to increase the debt of Manitoba Hydro with a fake freeze that will result in higher hydro payments and rates for the long term on the backs of ratepayers. Financial Literacy 101 would state if you freeze it, it will eventually melt and make a massive mess. If they freeze it, when the freeze comes off, rates would inevitably increase. And somehow, the NDP are going to just try to do that. They also want to put hydro into millions more of debt to achieve net zero by 2035, which will cost taxpayers and ratepayers even more money. Not very financially literate. The NDP continues to flip-flop to support the harmful carbon tax, which is driving up inflation, and they're cutting schools, daycare spots, and hospital upgrades because they can't afford to balance their $300 billion in overpromises they made. Worse, they are erroneously claiming that a PC balanced budget with a $270 million surplus is somehow worse than an $870 million deficit. Financial Literacy 101. Honorable Speaker, our PC team won't let them get in the way of debt, decay, and higher costs for Manitobans so easily. We will hold them accountable, and we will encourage financial literacy for all levels of government on the other side and Manitobans. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The honourable member for Tyndall Park.
Honourable Speaker, I ask for leave to respond to the minister's statement.
Does the honourable member from Tyndall Park have leave? The honourable member from Tyndall Park.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. November is Financial Literacy Month, a month observed all over Canada. Today I rise to speak to the importance of financial habits and working towards making smart financial decisions. Honourable Speaker, oftentimes life will throw unexpected curveballs, and that is why we often refer to having a rainy day fund to recognize potential emergencies. However, many Manitobans are barely getting by right now, never mind be able to build up a rainy day fund. When I think about financial literacy and the importance of it, I think about seniors, many of whom are living on fixed incomes. Seniors are having to stretch their money further than ever before between grocery bills, utility bills, cell phone bills, dental work, hearing aids, and most importantly, prescription medications. It is becoming near impossible for many seniors to make ends meet. I also think about students. Students continue to take on such debt as they are forced to pay more taxes, pushing them further and further away from potentially buying a house or a vehicle. It's scary to students that there's no tuition fee cap and that the average student will graduate with thousands of dollars of debt. Lastly, I think about small businesses. Small businesses are the backbone to Manitoba. It's something we're all very proud of, yet often don't support the way that we could be. Small businesses need support from all levels of government. They need business from all of us here, and they need to be given the opportunities and not be forced to close shop because of inflation. Honourable Speaker, I want to encourage all Manitobans to use the many resources provided at both the federal and provincial levels to learn about your rights with borrowing money and debt management. Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Municipal and Northern Relations, Indigenous Economic Development, and I would indicate that the required 90 minutes notice prior to routine proceedings was provided in accordance with Rule 27.2. The Honourable Minister of Northern Relations and Indigenous Economic Development.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I am honoured to rise before the House today to recognize November 27th to December the 1st as Municipal Government Awareness Week. This is the third year in a row that the province of Manitoba has celebrated Municipal Government Awareness Week, and there is good reason why this is fast becoming an annual tradition. Municipal governments play a crucial role in our province as the level of government with the closest and most direct impact on the people who live in their communities. Municipal governments make important decisions for all Manitobans, regardless of ability, identity, or background, on issues related to local services, programs, facilities, and infrastructure. Municipal governments provide essential services such as waste management, road maintenance, fire and police services, land use planning, building inspections, and emergency management. The provision of these services ensures the safe and efficient functioning of communities and provides the opportunity for communities to flourish economically, socially, and culturally. Municipalities are serious partners, and our government will treat them with the greatest respect and working together to make life better for families across the province. I'd also like to acknowledge, Honourable Speaker, the good work of the Association of Manitoba Municipalities for their unwavering support and advocacy on behalf of Manitoba's municipalities. Advocating for the unique needs and interests of Manitoba's bilingual municipalities, I would also like to take a moment to recognize the hard work of the Association of Manitoba Bilingual Municipalities in establishing the 3M model that will guide service delivery and communication with the public, governance leadership, and strategic direction, as well as people management in both official languages. The Association of Manitoba Municipalities annual fall convention, taking place this year between November 28th and November 30th, is a chance for municipal elected officials and administrators to come together to share ideas, to learn, to grow, and to build capacity to better serve their citizens. We strongly support these efforts, and we wish the Association of Manitoba Municipalities and all of the convention attendees a rewarding and successful convention. I would like to thank all mayors, councillors, and reeves, and hope they are able to conduct themselves with integrity and wisdom as they fulfill their duty, a duty entrusted to them through the traditions of our respective democracy, to earnestly and effectively represent the best interests of their constituents as they work to build strong, safe, accountable, and healthy communities. Honourable Speaker, let us take a moment to celebrate Municipal Government Awareness Week. Thank you.
Before recognizing any other members to speak on this, I'd like to acknowledge that we have seated in the public gallery from École Rivière Rouge 44 grade 4 students under the direction of Nicole Trottier. The group is located in the constituency of the Honourable Member for Kildonan River East. The Honourable Member for Lakeside.
Honourable Speaker, our PC team, we're proud the last 2 years to proclaim Municipal Government Awareness Week in recognition and appreciation of the important role of municipal governments in providing essential frontline community services, local leadership and advocacy while unifying people and communities. As part of Municipal Government Awareness Week in Manitoba, we invited applications for 2 programs focused on supporting local priorities and community development by creating summer youth employment and enabling important projects with partners and communities. Honourable Speaker, I myself have had the pleasure of serving as a first as a municipal councillor and then as Reeve of the Arm of Woodlands, working with many communities in our municipality. I also had the pleasure of serving as district representative on the Association of Manitoba Municipalities as their Interlake District Director. So I know firsthand the great work that CAOs and staff and councillors do for all our great communities across the province, and I want to thank them for it. I also want to acknowledge AMM, all the great work they do to bring forward municipal issues to government. They are having their annual AGM convention this week, and I look forward to attending it and hearing from all our Manitoba municipalities. I have had the opportunity to read the 60-plus resolutions that they will be bringing forward at their AMM, and I look forward to hearing the debate on them. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Member statements. The Honourable Member from Radisson.
Manitoba is a beautiful, resilient province. It would not be what it is today without the seniors among us who have devoted their lives to building it. The quality of life and the dignity of senior Manitobans are not only senior issues. In fact, caring for the generation that cared for this province is an issue that concerns us all. It is critical that we work together by bridging the gap between generations, recognizing that our needs are linked within our shared communities. Having volunteered in nursing homes and worked at an organization supporting aging people with disabilities, I am passionate about accessible healthcare and affordability for seniors across Manitoba. No matter the age that you are deserving of meaningful relationships, access to essential services, and a dignified life. That's why, as the youngest member of this Assembly, I am enthused to employ my first member's statement to recognizing the work of the Transcona Council for Seniors. Since their incorporation in 1993, about 30 years ago, The Council has assisted seniors in Northeast Winnipeg in their pursuit to live independently for as long as possible within our community. About 2 weeks ago, I had the pleasure of attending their 55-plus dining experience, visiting with constituents and seeing their passion in action. In addition to their regular dining opportunities, they also provide seniors with transportation, exercise programming, support groups, educational courses, emergency response information kits, and an information referral service. In my new role as Legislative Assistant to the Minister of Health, Seniors, and Long-Term Care, I am grateful for the partnership of organizations like the Transcona Council for Seniors and the strides that they help us take towards better outcomes for this province. I invite my colleagues to join me in applauding the efforts of the Transcona Council for Seniors staff, volunteers, and members, many of whom are with us in the gallery today.
The honourable member from Interlake Gimli.
Honourable Speaker, I rise with pride to recognize Riel, who joins us in the gallery. Riel is a father, a firefighter, a paramedic, and now the proud recipient of 4 medals in trap shooting. These successes were from the World Police and Fire Games that were held this past summer in Winnipeg. Riel resides in Arborg with his wife Kathy and 3 sons who also join us here today. Currently working as a paramedic stationed in Riverton, Riel previously served his home community of Arborg as a firefighter. Having shot competitively in the past, school, work, and family commitments led Riel to put his shooting on the back burner. That is until the discovery that the World Police and Fire Games would be held right here in Winnipeg. This led to the rekindling of his former passion, and through weekly practice and competition, Riel soon found his old skills had returned. Participating in 3 trap shooting events at the World Police and Fire Games, he had hoped to make a respectable showing in the international competition. Riel obviously exceeded his expectations by winning a silver and 2 golds, which in turn led to him receiving another gold in the all-trap event with the highest combined score, bringing his medal count to 4.
Yeah.
Riel's hard work and dedication, along with commitment to his family, community, and sport, is an inspiration not just to Manitobans, but to all international competitors. Honourable Speaker, it is my pleasure to recognize Riel, who joins us here with his wife Kathy and 3 sons.
The honourable member from Lagimodiere.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Today I rise to honour the Woodydale Family Resource Centre. Woodydale Family Resource Centre is a community-based organization with programming for healthy living, financial stability, and community building. It operates as a drop-in centre for residents of Manitoba Housing and the surrounding Lagimodiere community, fostering a sense of connection that reaches across our neighbourhoods. Woodydale's programs include communal meals, community gardening, and food drives, which address food insecurity in a time of rising food costs. Families are supported with youth programming for kids of all ages, computer resources, laundry facilities, and a community kitchen that are all centrally located on Manitoba Housing property. Woodydale also helps build marketable skills like sewing and assists with job searches, helping folks find sufficient and dignified employment. Established 2 decades ago by the nonprofit organization Family Dynamics in partnership with Manitoba Housing, Woodydale became a model for at least 6 other family resource centers across Winnipeg. Its successes stand as a testament to Woodydale's servant leaders, strong volunteers, and supportive community. It also highlights the effectiveness of provincial investments in local community organizations. Woodydale brought programs to a chronically underserved area of Winnipeg, where too often families would have to travel across the city to find suitable supports. Having family resource centers close to home not only removes barriers to services, but allows for tailored programming that fits the unique needs of communities in Lashmodiad. Woodydale is preparing for a busy holiday season with upcoming breakfast hampers and gift hamper programs already underway. I would like to thank Woodydale for their tireless work supporting the residents of Lashmodiad and would encourage everyone to volunteer or donate to their local community resource center ahead of the holiday season so that they can continue supporting our neighbors, friends, and families. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Agassiz.
Honorable Speaker, it is a privilege to rise in the House today to acknowledge and pay tribute to past MLA Eileen Clark. Eileen was first elected as the member to the Legislative Assembly for Agassiz in 2016 and again in 2019. Throughout her tenure, Eileen held cabinet positions and was the minister responsible for Indigenous, Northern Relations, and Municipal Relations. Eileen brought a renewed energy to the legislative building. She built many new relationships with trust and honesty, fostering each with respect. She hosted many visitors from her constituency and welcomed many more into her legislative office. Always known to have snacks and treats for all to enjoy, and some would show up just for the treats. Eileen established many working relationships with an ability to handle sensitive issues with truth and integrity. She maintained transparent and open lines of communications with First Nation leaders, Northern communities, municipal leaders and councils, and Hutterite colony families and leaders. Honourable Speaker, with her ability and strong work ethic, Eileen succeeded and accomplished many great things during her time in office. She helped with consultation and initiation with Bill 4, the Path to Reconciliation Amendment Act, and was very instrumental in the additional funding delivered to municipalities through the Department of Municipal Relations. Eileen has had a significant role in my life and to many more, always providing steadfast leadership, strength, and inspiration for many, always committed and dedicated to her responsibilities in government, all while balancing a busy life outside of her official duties. Eileen's success and accomplishments have been many, but nothing more important than the relationships and friendships that were created. Thank you, Eileen, for your contributions not only to your Agassiz constituency, but to this House. Know that your dedication and commitment to public service has made a difference. Honourable Speaker, I would ask that all members of this House join me in recognizing Eileen for all that she accomplished during her time in government. We wish her all the very best in her future endeavours, and may she enjoy her retirement with her family and friends at her side. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Burrows.
Honourable Speaker, Sat Shri Akal. As the month of November starts each year, Sikhs in the province and around the world remember the human rights violations and injustice that took place in the streets of India in 1984. Between October 31st and November 3rd, thousands of Sikh households were the targets of organized violence. This ethnic and religious persecution of Sikhs forced people from their homes, buses, and trains to be assaulted, resulting in the death of thousands. Houses, businesses, and gurdwaras were burned. Victims also included women and children. Only 3,006 had been officially reported murdered during those 4 days, but unofficial estimates are tens of thousands of murders and disappearances. After 39 years of suffering, and we are still counting, let's think of those who survived the violence and have yet to receive any semblance of justice. Affected families continue to live in pain and poverty to this day. This trauma directly impacted an entire generation, and future generations continue to advocate for justice. What happened in November 1984 was not a crime against one community, but rather a crime against all of us. Targeted killings of people solely based on who they identify as is never justified. We, the representatives of the people of the diverse province of Manitoba, need to continue to raise awareness of the horrors of the past and seek answers, accountability, and justice for those impacted. As we move forward, let's stand up for human rights, act to promote peace, and create a safe and respectful society where there is no space for any form of hatred towards anyone. Let's spread the message to recognize the whole human race as one. Manas ki zaat sabbe ikke pehchan bo. Honorable Speaker, I request my colleagues to join me, welcome my guests in the gallery, and request their names to be added to Hansard. Miigwech, mercy, thank you, and shukriya, Mr. Speaker.
Before we get to oral questions, I would like to take a moment to pay tribute to our new clerk, Rick Yarish. Members may not be aware of this, but Rick has a fantastic way with words and has provided invaluable input over the years when drafting statements such as these. Therefore, it has been a privilege to put this one together with Rick's team, and I'm sure that he is very relieved that he did not have to write it himself. Rick has been diligently serving members of this assembly for over 23 years, starting his career in the extremely challenging position of clerk assistant, clerk of committees, where over the course of 11 years, he completely revolutionized the branch. Since his first day on the job, Rick has displayed an almost unparalleled passion and dedication to the assembly. This was never more apparent than in 2008, when the hog producer bill was eventually sent to committee. 424 members of the public registered to speak, with 268 of them presenting over the course of 8 consecutive committee hearings. Not only does this bill hold the record for the most number of presenters in Manitoba's history, Rick clerked every single meeting, a staggering 64 hours spread over only 6 days. No committee clerk before or since has held the sole responsibility for such an undertaking. After an impressive 11 years in committee's branch, Rick took his seat at the table as deputy clerk for the first time on April 12, 2011. Rick's tenure as deputy clerk has seen him overcome many challenges, most notably during the COVID-19 pandemic, where Rick led the team of talented assembly staff who put together the virtual infrastructure that has seamlessly become part of the operations of this legislature. Rick firmly believes in democracy and was unwavering in his belief that during those unprecedented times, the assembly would continue to function and the public should be able to see their elected officials working hard for them, even if they could not be in the building. The Assembly achieved this and more, becoming a role model for other legislatures across Canada to follow. None of this would have been possible without his leadership and guidance. Rick has represented Manitoba across the Commonwealth and beyond at various parliamentary associations and conferences. He's also highly respected amongst the clerks community, having held the positions of treasurer, vice president, and president of the Association of Clerks at the Table in Canada. He is famous for taking his guitar with him to conferences, and many of the clerks across the country have fond memories of Rick entertaining a room full of delegates. Rick's love of music is widely known. His band, The Lemons, has produced numerous albums and regularly sells out local venues in Winnipeg. He shares his passion with his son, Adam, who joins us today in the Speaker's Gallery, along with Rick's 2 daughters, Emma and Grace, and his wife, Jackie. Also in the public gallery are some of Rick's close friends and former colleagues, Monique Grenier, Claude Michaud, Andre Signorelli, Tamara Pound, Trent Simpson, Craig Lawrence, and Lisa Lawrence. We welcome you all to the Legislative Assembly and hope for some of you this is bringing back fond memories of your time here. I would like to share a few quotes from Assembly staff who have worked with Rick during his illustrious career so far. Rick displays a genuine passion for the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba, and his work ethic and dedication transfers to everyone working around him. Rick has always served all members of the Assembly equally and without bias. He strives to be a trusted person from whom MLAs and staff will always get a straight answer. As a manager, Rick strives to be a teacher, sharing his knowledge and experience, helping staff to learn and grow, and then getting it out of the way to let them shine. Rick expects certain things from his team and holds himself and us to a high standard. Be a leader, be respectful, be open, be the best communicator, be excellent. This is the most important part. He expects himself and everyone on his team to be excellent. Rick is kind, supportive, and understanding. He loves his job more than anyone I've ever met and is incredibly dedicated to the Assembly. He will make a fantastic clerk because he wants to see his team succeed and the Assembly be the best it can possibly be. It is clear that our new clerk will forever leave his mark on this Assembly. He has been the champion of many improvements and modernizations while still deeply respecting the history and traditions of what we do here. I look forward to working closely with Rick in his new capacity for the betterment of the Assembly, its members, its staff, and all Manitobans. And if he didn't already have enough to celebrate, it was also his birthday yesterday. Good luck, Rick Yerish, the 14th Clerk of the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba. And before we move on to oral questions, I would like to draw the attention of all honorable members to the public gallery, where we have with us today from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Tom Linner, who is the guest of the honorable member for Southdale. On behalf of all members, all honorable members, we welcome you here today. Oral questions. The Honorable Leader of the Official Opposition. The Honorable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And before we get into questions today and question period, I just want to acknowledge the tragic event that took place over the weekend in Langside, and those who lost their lives. There were 4 individuals that lost their lives as a result of those tragic events and the shooting that took place over the weekend. Of course, our prayers go out to the family members who have lost their loved ones, and our hearts go out, especially, I would say, Honorable Speaker, to the children who have lost their parents. My sympathy goes out to, of course, the families and the victims, and to the whole Langside community, because all were affected by this tragic event. And so we know, Honorable Speaker, that Manitobans deserve to feel safe in their home and have the faith in our community. I have the faith in our community that we can come together and support one another during these tragic times. I do have questions for the Premier on the carbon tax, but I'll leave it with that for a response from the Premier.
The Honorable First Minister.
I want to acknowledge the Leader of the Opposition for raising this issue. It is an important one. There are many Manitobans today who are grieving, and there are many Manitobans today who do not feel safe. And it's incumbent on our government to work to support those folks. I want to extend our condolences to those who've lost loved ones, and to send a message that our government is going to be tough on crime and tough on the causes of crime for Manitobans who worry about safety in all of our communities across the province. I also want to acknowledge that Winnipeg's Chief of Police said that this was a difficult situation to respond to. So at this time, I want to thank those law enforcement officers as well as other first responders who were there on this difficult scene.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you,
on a
Honourable
subsequent
Speaker.
question.
There has been a great deal of discussion and the dire need to exempt home heating from the NDP Liberal coalition carbon tax. But the carbon tax doesn't just affect residential customers, Honourable Speaker. It hurts farmers and it hurts producers right here in Manitoba. Will this NDP Premier advocate for Manitoba's ag industry and an exemption from the NDP Liberal carbon tax?
The Honourable First Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I was very proud to join the Minister of Agriculture on Friday to travel to the Interlake to share the good news that we're bringing affordability relief to Crown Lands producers right across this great country.
Right on.
For years during the PC administration, it seems like the PCs had a singular focus on making the cost of business more expensive for these ranchers. And so as one of our first steps in office, we've brought in relief and we're freezing rent rates as we create time to bring in further measures to help cattle producers here in Manitoba. But wait, there's more. Our pause on the fuel tax will also save money for producers in all the various sectors of the ag economy here in the province of Manitoba. And in fact, during this fuel tax holiday, there won't necessarily be a need to mark fuel. You will simply realize the savings on all forms of gasoline and diesel, thanks to our Minister of Finance.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition on a final supplementary.
Well, once again, the Premier didn't answer the question. Of course, the question is on the carbon tax, the NDP Liberal coalition carbon tax. Honourable Speaker, the agriculture business represents almost 10% of Manitoba's GDP and is the backbone of our economy here in Manitoba. But the ag industry doesn't get any help from the NDP government's temporary fuel tax cut. So I'll ask the Premier again, will this NDP Premier stand up and advocate for Manitoba's ag industry and an exemption from the NDP Liberal carbon tax today?
The Honourable First Minister.
In 1 month in office, we've already done more to help ranchers in this province that the members opposite ever did. And where every single year they tried to make the cost of business for ranchers less and less affordable, we have taken a step to permanently reduce their cost of doing business. Now, beyond this, we're also ensuring that all Manitobans enjoy a break when we talk about cutting the provincial gasoline tax. And by the way, that applies to diesel as well, too. So not only ag businesses, but many businesses in many sectors will benefit from this inflation relief measure. However, one of the significant problems we're encountering so far is a lack of commitment from the PCs. A lack of commitment to ensure that the fuel tax bill will pass before the House rises. Will we ensure that there will be no delays in achieving royal
Time
assent?
has expired. The Honourable Member for Portage La Prairie.
First of all, I'd like to table a letter that was brought forward by 4 of the largest ag producers or ag businesses. And stating in that letter, it says, we note the proposed list of fuel eligible for tax exemption notably excludes propane and dyed gasoline, which are currently subject to a 3-cent per liter fuel tax in Manitoba. After years of being hounded with this
the NDP Liberal carbon tax, it's ridiculous. The NDP would leave farm equipment out of the temporary fuel tax cut. When will this government take some responsibility for farmers' ability to make a living?
The Honourable First Minister.
Our government is very responsible. We are careful stewards of the provincial economy, unlike the members opposite who've left us with a significant fiscal mess. However, we know that one of the most important things that we can do to ensure that the provincial economy is to support agriculture. And that's why, as a Minister of Ag and myself, we're in
the Honourable First Minister.
Start again. There we go. Okay. So, I will simply point out for the agriculture critic that in order for him to be successful in his new responsibilities, it will be important for him to pay attention to our government's many excellent announcements, including the announcement on Friday that we are freezing rents for producers who use Crown lands, and also that we are going to cut the provincial fuel tax, which of course applies to ag producers. Doesn't he agree that these are all great steps for the ag industry?
The Honourable Member from Portage La Prairie on a subsequent question.
With the front wheels coming off the cart due to the farmers being left out of the new Fuel Tax Amendment Act, and the rear wheels coming off the cart due to the high cost they're facing with the NDP-supported carbon tax, will this minister take responsibility for the high cost of groceries and increased production costs and tell Manitoba families why the NDP want them to pay more for their groceries?
The Honourable First Minister.
The PC members opposite have such a poor understanding of the provincial economy that they really struggle with this metaphor. It's the social cart that has axles. The economy is the economic horse, and our team is feeding it by cutting Crown Lands rents and by cutting the provincial fuel tax. So I'll ask again, does the ag critic recognize that these are great steps for the agriculture industry in Manitoba?
The Honourable Member from Portage La Prairie on a final supplementary.
I will ask one time again also. With farmers trying to understand why they are not part of the Temporary Tax Amendment Act and also being burdened with the NDP supporting the carbon tax federally, will this government admit rural Manitobans will continue to be ignored by the rest of the caucus and this finance minister?
The Honourable First Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. You know, we brought in a geothermal home heating program. 90% of the people who will benefit from that are folks who live in rural Manitoba. We have frozen rents for Crown Lands producers. And importantly, there will not be a need to mark fuel once we bring in the fuel tax holiday. That means that ag producers will benefit from that tax cut on gasoline and also when that is applied to diesel. This is a step that the PCs never took. They charged 14 cents a litre on these Manitobans right across the province during their time in office. So if the ag critic has a question to ask, he should really ask the front bench, why did they charge this tax on Manitobans throughout their time in office?
The Honourable Member from Fort White.
On this side of the House, we are all for making life more affordable for all Manitobans. I have a very simple question for the minister. Can he stand here today and promise Manitobans that if the Fuel Tax Amendment Act passes, that all Manitobans will see a 14-cent savings per litre at the pump for all usages on motor vehicles, ATVs, combines, ski-doos, boats, and tractors? It's a very simple question, Your Honourable Speaker. Yes or no?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Manitobans struggling under the weight of the previous government not taking action to improve affordability, we on this side of the House are very proud to be bringing in a measure that will reduce the fuel tax from 14 cents a litre to $0. That will help all Manitobans as they head to the pump. The only question Manitobans need to ask is, will the previous government support it?
The Honourable Member for Fort White on a supplementary question.
So shockingly, the answer is no. This tax fuel cut is not for all Manitobans, just like the minister just said. So can the minister then say today, if this fuel tax is passed, that this government will amend it, like they say in the throne speech, leave no one behind, that this act will include everyone that buys gasoline, propane, diesel, and natural gas? The answer is simple, yes or no.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Again, it gives me pleasure to rise in the House to talk about the important work we're doing on this side of the House to make life more affordable for all Manitobans. I will answer the member's question very clearly. All Manitobans will benefit from the reduction of fuel tax from 14 cents a litre to $0. The only question is, will the members opposite support the bill?
The Honourable Member for Fort White on a final supplementary question.
So it's clear that the minister has not read his own bill that he proposes going forward. The minister will not say that every single Manitoban will save 14 cents. And this is all while the minister has previously acknowledged that the cost of living, interest, inflation, grocery prices, and other factors won't come down for years to come. So, if they're not going to come down for years to come, will this minister agree to extend the fuel tax cut for as long as Manitobans are struggling with inflation? Yes or no?
The Honourable Minister of Finance. The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to respond to the question. One thing we know is that rural families drive a lot. They drive a lot they got to go long distance to their workplaces, they have to go a long distance to school. This measure will provide significant benefits to families living in our rural communities, especially farmers. We're taking action to help make life more affordable for all Manitobans, not like the members opposite who spent years seeking to make life more expensive for farmers. We're going to make life more affordable. Will they support the bill? Yes or no?
There we go.
The Honourable Member from Swan River.
Here we go.
Honourable Speaker, this NDP Premier and Minister of Finance have quickly made this fuel tax cut very confusing. Has the Minister of Edit and Natural Resources consulted and advised trappers and commercial fishers that their snowmobiles, power saws, augers, bombardiers, jerry cans, which is their lifeline to return home to their families at night, do not qualify for this tax exemption? Yes or no?
Woo. Nice.
The Honourable Minister of Economic Development, Investment, Trade and Natural Resources.
Honourable Speaker, I'm pleased to rise to answer the question. We are excited about building an economy that's going to work for all Manitobans. We're a listening government. We're a collaborative government. We're working with individual people in Manitoba, industry partners, First Nation and Indigenous communities to make sure our economy is going to work for everybody. What people have said is they want more affordability in Manitoba, and that's why we're excited to bring in this fuel tax, which is going to lower it from 14 cents down to $0, that all Manitobans will see that end of economic benefit.
The Honourable Member from Swan River on a supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, we will make this really easy for the minister. Many Manitobans go out every day to work and provide for their families. They operate machinery powered by gasoline that's taxed by the province. Will the minister support an amendment to give these hardworking Manitobans the same break? Yes or no?
Yeah.
The Honourable Minister of Economic Development, Investment, Trade and Natural Resources.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. You know, the member opposite is right about one thing. Manitobans are hardworking. And we seek to actually unite those hardworking Manitobans together on this side of the House, instead of playing the divisive politic games like the members opposite. Instead of actually doing nothing to address affordability, we're actually going to get to work and get the job done. That's why we're bringing in this cut to the fuel tax. And we're actually going to deliver on affordability on January 1st.
The Honourable Member from Swan River on a final supplementary.
Honourable Speaker, this should be an across-the-board exemption.
Yep.
If anything, this bill divides Manitobans.
Yep.
Since the minister didn't answer the first two questions, I'll try one more time.
Yep.
Will the minister stand up for Manitobans against the tactics of this NDP Premier and Minister of Finance?
There.
The Honourable Minister of Economic Development, Investment, Trade and Natural Resources.
Honourable Speaker, we're going to stand up every day for Manitobans on this side of the House. And Honourable Speaker, one thing I'll tell you that we're going to stand up for, we're going to stand up for healthcare. We're going to stand up for education. We're going to stand up for affordability. And that's why we're lowering the gas tax on January 1st for all Manitobans.
The Honourable Member from La Vérendrye.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Sport, Culture, Heritage and Tourism. The tourism industry generates $1.8 billion for the Manitoba economy. This industry relies on off-road vehicles, including snowmobiles, watercraft, and ATVs, to access the beauty of Manitoba's backcountry. Why has this industry once again been overlooked by this government in the gas tax exemption?
I don't want tourism.
Breaking the election promises to provide relief for all Manitobans.
Here, here. Good job.
The Honourable Minister of Sport, Culture, Heritage and Tourism.
I'd like to thank the member opposite for the question. Story time here. I was a little kid on a farm, grew up on a farm, and what I would ask my dad to do, hey, let's go down to St. Lazare, drive up to the gas place there, fill up our jerry can, bring it back home and put it in my motorbike, Kawasaki 150. And kids across the province will be able to do that. Families across the province will be able to do that because when you pull up to a pump, you get 14 cents off. January 1st, you'll pull up to the pump, fill up your jerry can, and fill up your motorbike.
The Honourable Member from La Vérendrye on a supplementary question.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Manitoba is host to 1.4 million out-of-province visitors within the tourism industry, and that equals $590 million in export revenue, which is larger than Manitoba's wheat export.
Wow.
With millions of tourists contributing to Manitoba's economy each year, can the minister please tell the House whether the holiday will apply to out-of-province visitors as well? Or does he expect small business owners to filter who can and can't buy gas under the tax exemption?
The Honourable Minister of Sport, Culture, Heritage and Tourism.
Well, as someone who's driven across Manitoba, you can stop in Russell, 14% or 14 cents off a liter. You'll drive through Minnedosa, 14 cents a liter. You'll continue, you'll go through Gladstone, 14 cents a liter. You'll stop through Portage, 14 cents a liter. And all the way, stop at those great places like Assisipi, stop at Ski Valley, stop at Hoppy Rock, and stop at the Fort Loraine Museum.
It works together. Deal at the pumps, see our great province.
The honourable member from La Vérendrye on a final supplementary.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I'd like to highlight the bill in 12.2, which clearly states a motor vehicle on the roadway. Yep. And this is what brings our concern. Honourable Speaker, Snowman Incorporated is the nonprofit organization maintaining more than 13,000 kilometers of Manitoba's scenic trails. Yep. This directly contributes to the strong tourism products within our province. These trails are maintained by hundreds of snow groomers, off-road snow groomers, and other trail maintenance equipment, all of which uses fuel, but seemingly excluded from the gas tax exemption. Will this government consider
Member's time
and
has
support
expired.
the tourism industry?
The member's time has expired. The Honourable Minister of Sport, Culture, Heritage and Tourism.
Hey, it's quite obvious they're reaching for straws. Their Hail Mary passes during the election campaign didn't work, and they're trying the same thing here. It is very clear to anybody you ask, 14 cents off at the pump. What's so hard about that? January 1st, you save money. Will they support it? Yes or no?
The honourable member for Lakeside.
Honourable Speaker, the fuel excise tax bill appears to leave out municipalities. I want to give the Minister of Municipal and Northern Relations the opportunity to clarify whether they have consulted with municipal governments before introducing this fuel excise tax reduction, and ask why they are leaving municipalities out when it could save their budgets up to $30 million annually.
The Honourable Minister of Municipal and Northern Relations.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Well, I think the member opposite fails to recognize that every member of municipality is also a Manitoban. And those Manitobans will save at the pump 14 cents to zero on January 1st, and that's showing respect, something members opposite never did in 7 years in government.
The member from Lakeside on a supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, municipal governments have to pay for most of the road maintenance in our province. Now with the fuel excise tax not being collected this year, there will be less revenue for municipal roads, highways, and all the infrastructure that keeps our communities going. So will the minister explain how less revenue this year from the fuel tax will impact municipal funding?
The Honourable Minister of Municipal and Northern Relations.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Municipalities have struggled for 7 years because of funding freezes by this government. And here they are trying to now talk about affordability and treating with respect. Shame on them. 7 years, year after year after year, funding freeze, funding freeze, funding freeze. So what are we doing? We're bringing affordability for all Manitobans, 14 cents to zero, January 1st.
The Honourable Member from Lakeside on the final supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, municipal governments have large fuel costs for snow removal, road construction, and road maintenance. Can the Minister of Municipal and Northern Affairs explain why they are not getting a break on the fuel tax they pay for this important work? Can the Minister explain whether less fuel tax revenues will mean less money available to fund our municipal governments?
The Honourable Minister of Municipal and Northern Relations.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Coming this week, I'm going to be honoured to attend AMM to hear firsthand how shameful this previous government treated the municipalities year after year. I encourage the member opposite to come out and hear those concerns, because I know I will be there.
The Honourable Member from Tyndall Park.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The Premier committed during the last election to bring new emergency rooms to Victoria, Concordia, and Seven Oaks Hospital. Manitobans expect this government to follow through on their promises and shouldn't have to wait 8+ years for these changes. Can this government please indicate exactly when, I'm talking year and month, they plan to have the Victoria ER up and running?
The Honourable First Minister.
I want to thank the member for Tyndall Park for once again raising a question on the number one issue that matters to Manitobans, which is healthcare. Our government was elected on a commitment to repair the single greatest thing that the PCs ever did to harm Manitobans, which was to close 3 of the biggest emergency rooms in our province. People in South Winnipeg, people in the Northeast, people in Northwest, people in Interlake, Eastman, Niverville, and other surrounding communities to the south all bore the impact of this terrible, terrible decision. Now, we are going to proceed judiciously, meticulously, and with a careful plan to first staff up the healthcare system and then reopen these ERs. It's our hope that we can put shovels into the ground at the Victoria site within 2 years, but this will require staffing up the healthcare system first. One thing we will never do is to proceed without a plan, as the PC government did, which has left us with a mess.
The Honourable Member from Tyndall Park on a supplementary question.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The building of 3 new ERs will require the hiring of hundreds, maybe thousands, of doctors, nurses, and allied health professionals. Can the government please share with the House where the healthcare professionals that will be working in our emergency rooms are going to be coming from when we have such a shortage of healthcare workers?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I appreciate the question from the member for Tyndall Park on health human resource capacity. I think it's very important that our government is taking an approach that was never seen under the previous government. We are taking our time to listen to experts, to staff up the healthcare system, and to make sure that we're doing the things that the previous government absolutely refused to do, which is lead with evidence, lead with an informed plan. The previous government chose to put their ideology ahead of the healthcare of Manitobans, and that failed miserably. We're taking a different approach, making sure that we're working with healthcare workers across the system to staff up alongside them.
Great response.
The Honourable Member from Tyndall Park on a final supplementary question.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. A critical part of staffing these emergency rooms is to make sure people have timely access to care. We know that there are rural healthcare facilities in Manitoba that have very limited hours, and rural Manitobans deserve the same access to healthcare as Winnipeggers. This government committed to building a new ER in Ericsdale. Can they please confirm if it will be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
I thank the member for the question. Our government is committed to ensuring that the residents of Ericsdale and surrounding areas have an emergency room that is there for them when they need it. Unlike the previous government that closed 3 emergency rooms, fired hundreds of healthcare workers, and treated healthcare workers so badly during a pandemic that folks left our healthcare system for jobs not even related to healthcare at all. Our government is committed to taking a new approach that works alongside healthcare expertise in our province, and we're already seeing the benefits of that approach pay off. I look forward to providing updates to this House as we move forward to celebrate the commitments that our government has made and are executing in healthcare.
Wow.
The Honourable Member from Radisson.
Honourable Speaker, over the past 7 years, frontline healthcare workers have been ignored, fired, disrespected, under-resourced, and pushed to the brink. Well, it's a new day in Manitoba. Honourable Speaker, today the Minister of Health announced this new government is embarking on a healthcare listening tour. Can Minister elaborate on this healthcare listening tour and tell the House why hearing from frontline workers is essential to fixing the healthcare system?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I thank my colleague, the MLA for Radisson, for not only that great question, but for joining us this morning for an important announcement made alongside the Premier and the MLA for Kirkfield Park to action our commitment to listen to healthcare workers across the system by undertaking a listening tour. Now, I'm being heckled by members opposite. members of the former PC government, they're heckling because they made no effort during their time in office to listen to healthcare workers. Our team on this side knows the value of taking a new approach. We look forward to meeting with healthcare workers directly at their hospitals and in community to hear their concerns, their ideas, their solutions to strengthen healthcare in our province. That is just the next step of many we've already taken to strengthen healthcare in Manitoba.
Time is The honourable member from Red River North.
Honourable Speaker, this NDP government made $3 billion in spending promises this election with no plans to grow the economy. Now they're cutting the roads budget and promising Manitobans a big deficit. Can the Minister of Economic Development please tell this House which sectors of our economy will be targeted for new tax hikes and fees to make up these shortfalls?
The Honourable Minister of Economic Development, Investment, Trade and Natural Resources.
Honourable Speaker, I'm pleased to rise to answer this question. We are committed to building a stronger economy in Manitoba, full stop. We're not going to make the divisive games of the opposition side when they were in government. We're going to work collaboratively with Manitobans to get this job done. We are not making a cut to our roads budget, and we're fully implementing it. And furthermore, Honourable Speaker, we're going to do it in a collaborative approach with all Manitobans.
The honourable member from Red River North on a supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, Manitobans know there isn't a tax or fee or red tape regulation that the NDP doesn't like. And all of these areas determine whether businesses succeed and whether Manitobans compete for investment on the world stage. Honourable Speaker, will the minister commit today to standing up to this NDP Premier and his Finance Minister against any new tax, fee or regulation that gets in the way of business and industry in Manitoba?
The Honourable Minister of Economic Development, Investment, Trade and Natural Resources.
Honourable Speaker, I'm proud to stand up with the Premier and with the Minister of Finance and with industry partners to build a collaborative approach of making sure this economy is strong for now and into the future. Honourable Speaker, to respond to the member's opposite question, the issue of making sure our economy is strong, we're going to deliver that not only by affordability, but making sure we make strong infrastructure investments as well. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
The honourable member from Red River North on a final supplementary question.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Just like the NDP, there isn't a tax fee or red tape regulation that the federal Liberal government, Mr. Deputy Speaker, Mr. Speaker, doesn't like. These determine whether Manitoba businesses succeed and whether we can compete for investment on the world stage. Will the Minister of Economic Development again commit today to standing up to the NDP-supported Trudeau government and stand up against the new tax fee and regulation that gets in the way of business and industry right here in Manitoba?
The Honourable Minister of Economic Development, Investment, Trade and Natural Resources.
Honourable Speaker, instead of making the mistakes of the failed former government, we're going to work collaboratively with industry, with Indigenous communities, with First Nations, with partners in our community to make sure that our economic growth is strong. And, Honourable Speaker, we're going to do this in a couple of ways, by not only working collaboratively as a team of ministers, by listening to Manitobans. And that is how we'll make sure we have an economy that works for all Manitobans.
The honourable member from Spruce Woods.
Speaker, the Minister of Environment's mandate letter directs Hydro to implement a net zero grid by 2035, yet there was no mention of this commitment in the throne speech. This has left Manitobans with natural gas furnaces rightly concerned about the future of heating their homes in this province. With over 250,000 homes in Manitoba heated with natural gas, when can Manitobans expect this NDP government to direct Hydro to turn off the gas?
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Honourable Speaker, it is a true privilege and an honour to rise for the first time and answer my first question in question period, so I thank you. It is a privilege and an opportunity to serve in this role, and I want to speak to Manitobans and tell them how grateful I am for the opportunity to serve in this role. And I want to thank Manitobans for making the choice that they made on October 3rd, and that is the choice to reject the status quo, to demand and expect more from their elected officials, and to demand real action on climate change. Honourable Speaker, this government is committed to delivering results for Manitobans, and I look forward to sharing more.
The Honourable Member from Spruce Woods on a supplementary question.
Thank you, Speaker. When over 50% of Manitoba homes are heated with natural gas, the NDP commitment of installing 5,000 heat pumps to create their net zero grid is a drop in the bucket. How is the NDP going to pick the 5,000 winners? And when can the rest of Manitobans who heat their homes with natural gas furnaces expect the NDP to turn off the gas?
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Manitoba has a unique opportunity here to drastically reduce our emissions while also saving Manitobans money after years of rising costs and a slowing economy under the previous government. We have been working day and night with our federal counterparts to secure funding for what will surely be a revolutionary program.
The Honourable Member from Spruce Woods on a final supplementary question.
Speaker, these NDP commitments impact real people and organizations in our communities, and it's not just families. The Keystone Centre in Brandon is one of Westman's crown jewel facilities with over 500,000 square feet of multi-use event facilities all under one roof. If the minister plans to phase out Hydro's natural gas emissions from our grid, can she explain how the NDP government plans to heat facilities like the Keystone Centre in Brandon, which is predominantly heated by natural gas? Because I'm not sure a heat pump is going to cut it.
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change. The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Honourable Speaker, where the previous government squandered Manitobans' unique opportunity, where the previous government failed to act and failed to plan, where the previous government rejected science and ignored experts, we are here to listen, collaborate with our federal partners, and to do what's best for Manitobans and the environment.
The time for oral questions has expired. Petitions. Orders of the day, government business.
Sorry, Bill.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Honourable Speaker, I would like to announce that the Standing Committee on Social and Economic Development will meet on Wednesday, November 29th, 2023, at 6 p.m. to consider Bill Number 3, the Fuel Tax Amendment Act, Fuel Tax Holiday.
It has been announced that the Standing Committee on Social and Economic Development will meet on Wednesday, November 29th, 2023 at 6:00 p.m. to consider Bill Number 3, the Fuel Tax Amendment Act Fuel Tax Holiday. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Miigwech, Honourable Speaker, I would like to interrupt throne speech debate for second reading of Bill 2, the Louis Riel Act.
Getting it done.
Throne speech debate will be interrupted while we now move on to debating Bill Number 2, second reading of Bill Number 2, the Louis Riel Act. The Honourable First Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I move, seconded by the Minister for Advanced Education and Training, that Bill Number 2, the Louis Riel Act, Loi sur Louis Riel, be now read a second time and be referred to a committee of this House.
Nice try. You tried. You tried. It's not time, Derek. First day in the House.
It's been moved by the Honourable First Minister, seconded by the Minister for Advanced Education and Training, that Bill Number 2, the Louis Riel Act, be now read a second time and referred to a committee of this House. The Honourable First Minister.
This bill is an important one to help us properly recognize Mr. Riel's important contributions to our great province, as well as to help ensure that all Manitobans from all walks of life are able to properly tell the history of the founding of this great province, the way we've lived together over the past century and a half, and to work together to articulate our shared vision for one common future here in these lands we call Manitoba. Now, this bill bestows the honorary title of First Premier of Manitoba on Louis Riel. And I think we all understand that this has been a long time coming. In short, this bill makes things as they always should have been. Mr. Riel, among his many titles, Father of Manitoba, one of the Fathers of Confederation, was, during his lifetime, known as the President of the Legislative Council of Assiniboia. Today, among the few titles that I am honored to hold on behalf of the people of Manitoba, President of the Executive Council is one of them. And so certainly there is work being done here to ensure that the language of today applies to Mr. Riel for his work at his time, and ensures that school children and people from all walks of life going forward will understand the founding role that he played here in Manitoba. Now, we know that Mr. Riel brought forward that provisional government in the earliest instances of us beginning to articulate this vision of a province in which we could live together. And he helped to further articulate that in the list of rights, which recognized bilingualism, multiculturalism, freedom of religion, freedom of people from all walks of life to live here in these lands and pursue a mutually beneficial future. Now, when the Government of Canada came here, they recognized Mr. Riel. They negotiated with him. And it was he who chose Manitoba as the name for this province as it was being entered into Confederation. And so certainly he is not only our first Premier when we're talking about this honorary title, but he is also truly the father of Manitoba and a father of Confederation. Unfortunately, for many of the past 153 years, we haven't always respected and recognized Mr. Riel's founding contributions to our province. And that's part of the reason why we've articulated in this bill that this is an honorary title. It's our hope that a young person in the future, a tourist visiting our province, that people who are beginning to learn the true history of Manitoba will ask about that and say, why is it honorary First Premier, and why not just First Premier of Manitoba? And then we can use that as a teachable moment, a learning opportunity to explain that, yes, Mr. Riel founded this province and saw to its entry into this great country called Canada, but also that even though he was elected as a member of Parliament 3 times, he was never permitted to take his seat in the House of Commons. And of course, eventually, he gave his life in the service of the people who live here in Manitoba. And so with this balance in the legislation, we'll be able to at once recognize the founding contributions of Mr. Riel, but also to be able to teach the challenges that he confronted during his lifetime and the challenges that many Manitobans, including citizens of the Métis Nation, the Manitoba Métis Federation, have faced these past 153 years in trying to see him recognized. Importantly, this bill also asks the Department of Education to ensure that educators continue the amazing work that they're doing to bring the work of reconciliation into the classroom. I'm sure that all of us over our lives have seen the evolution of the way that we talk about Mr. Riel, and this seems to be operating on a parallel track of the work of reconciliation that is occurring within Manitoba. And I think that we all feel positive about that arc moving in a future-facing direction. And so last week, when we were able to announce this bill, I think we were all very proud to see people jigging in the rotunda, to hear the fiddle music being played, to hear French being spoken right alongside English, and perhaps most of all, to see people from all different walks of life to gather together and say, we are one Manitoba. Mr. Riel's vision is the foundation of why we're able to do all those things here in Manitoba today. And while perhaps we haven't fully realized 100% of the articulation of Mr. Riel's vision, it is my belief that we are getting closer each and every day. And that fills me with a ton of optimism for the future that our children and grandchildren will inherit. And so I'm very proud to bring this bill forward to second reading so that we can take another step forward in recognizing our shared history so that we can build our common destiny together.
A question period of up to 15 minutes will be held. Questions may be addressed to the minister by any opposition or independent member in the following sequence. First question by the official opposition critic or designate. Subsequent questions asked by critics or designates from other recognized parties. Subsequent questions asked by each independent member, remaining questions to be asked by opposition members, and no question or answer shall exceed 45 seconds. The honourable member from Interlake Gimli.
Thank you. I just want to ask the member that brought this forward who they consulted with. Speaking with my constituents where I am from the Interlake, where you might recognize the largest population of Métis reside. In speaking with them, they're not opposed to the bill, but they haven't been consulted with. Could the member explain who they've consulted with and how long in the process that he took to make that happen?
The Honourable First Minister.
Consultations around this bill were extensive, and the member opposite would know them well. His former government voted this bill down multiple times. And throughout the series of those votes, we kept trying, and along the way, we kept talking to Manitobans about the importance of this legislation. Among the many venues in which we did so included many stops in the Interlake, but also the annual Manitoba Métis Federation Annual General Assembly, where Métis citizens from St. Laurent to Riverton spoke in one unanimous voice to say that the votes of the PC members opposite were a mistake and that this bill should move forward so that all of us as Manitobans can start to share that destiny that we're all so proud of.
The honourable member from Tyndall Park.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I'd like to thank the Premier for bringing forward this important piece of legislation. And my question for the Premier is, can he speak just a little bit to what this would look like as it is brought into the school curriculum?
The Honourable First Minister.
I want to thank the member for Tyndall Park for this important question. I think that it's important to point out that our government respects educators. We trust teachers. We know that teachers work with parents. They work with children to do good things for our province together. Now, I know the members opposite don't necessarily share those views, And it's our vision of working with educators to, on the one hand, ask them to incorporate Mr. Riel further into the school curricula, but also to recognize their expertise and to respect it. And to say, we would now like you to begin to use your expertise and tell us the best ways in which we can do this in a way that's consistent with those core competencies, with the human rights curricula, with the age-appropriate learning that school kids across Manitoba deserve. But again, our government is committed to respecting teachers, respecting parents, respecting children, as we do all Manitobans.
The honourable member for Lac du Bonny.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to get up and ask a couple questions. So I'd like to ask, first of all, I'd like to state that some of the information that the Premier has now put on the record is, again, false, Honourable Speaker. But my question to him is, where in the curriculum as it sits today is Louis Riel mentioned in the K-12 curriculum?
Honourable First Minister.
You know, there are many important jobs that educators do to ensure that our curricula, as they apply across the K-12 system, are made relevant to students in all regions of this province. And that's why on a given day, you might hear Mr. Riel incorporated into a kindergarten's class story time. On another day, you may hear social studies, grade 10 teachers talking about Mr. Riel. On still other days in that grade 5 classroom, you might hear a discussion about human rights and the list of rights that Mr. Riel helped to articulate for Manitoba. And so once again, I'm proud to be part of a government that trusts teachers, that respects the role that teachers have in working with parents and students to empower the next generation with learning that they will be able to use for the rest of their lives. And now what we're doing is simply codifying that within a bill and asking educators and parents and students for the opportunity to continue working together.
The honourable member for Lac du Bonny.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And I heard loud and clear that the Premier is not actually making this a mandatory thing in the K-12 curriculum. Honourable Speaker, it seems to me that he's leaving this up to individuals, and I'd like to ask the Premier, where exactly would the new additional pieces to the social studies curriculum or other curriculum within the school system, where would he see this exactly be fitting, Mr. Honourable Speaker?
Great question, Wayne.
The Honourable First Minister.
I want to congratulate the member opposite on his newfound interest in speaking up about education issues. When I noticed that he was completely silent during the recent campaign when his leader tried to divide teachers from students and from parents. And so I will answer the question in a good faith fashion, which is to say that we are going to empower teachers and educators and school leaders to help work with us in this exercise. We also know that the Manitoba Métis Federation, that Métis citizens, that Manitobans from all walks of life will have an important role to play in this work, because it's not about us moving forward as a government by ourselves, it's about all of us as Manitobans moving forward together.
The honourable member from Lac du Bonny.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to again get up and put some questions on the record. Honourable Speaker, I see that the Premier really hasn't shed the old days of divisive politics and working against others, Honourable Speaker. So can the Premier assure, even though he really can't assure us where this curriculum is going to be headed, but can he at least say that all the curriculum is going to be in French and English?
Great question.
The Honourable First Minister.
I'm very proud to be part of the party that brought bilingualism formally into the laws here in Manitoba, and to point out, of course, that it was the PCs that opposed that at the time. And so we're going to continue to ensure that these resources are available in French and English, and also in Indigenous languages and the other heritage language programs that are part of the public school system here in Manitoba. In fact, our team was so proud to give Manitobans a reason to come together at our swearing-in ceremony that I do want to point out to the member opposite that you know who was also in attendance at the swearing-in? Adam Beach.
The honourable member from Interlake Gimli.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Now with the Michif language being a written language, we had some of my constituents, as a matter of fact, put together a dictionary and a book of the traditionally spoken language historically. Can the member state if not just the history will be taught in the curriculum, but will the language be part of that curriculum?
Good question.
The Honourable First Minister.
You know, I was very proud to visit the member's constituency to see the school in St. Laurent, where they have the beautiful Michif language written on the walls, both in the classrooms of the school, but also in the child care center. And so absolutely, our government will be there to work alongside Michif language speakers, as well as citizens of the Manitoba Métis Federation, as well as Manitobans from all walks of life, to ensure that as we work through the process of educating Manitobans about Louis Riel in the public school system, and of course in the general public, that we'll be inclusive of all people in this great province.
No further questions. The floor is open for debate.
Thank you very much, Honorary Chair.
Recognize you.
Oh, sorry.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you very much, Honorary Speaker. I am very pleased today to rise in the House and put a few words on the record with respect to Bill 2, the Louis Riel Act. I can recall when I first became Premier of Manitoba, one of the first things I did is I was in touch with President David Chartrand, and we set a meeting right away, and he came down to my office, and we were planning on meeting. We had our staff with us. We were planning on meeting in the Cabinet office with our staff as well, and some of my colleagues, and we were planning about 45 minutes or an hour meeting, and I thought, you know, at the beginning, I said, President Chartrand, why don't we just have, you know, a 15-minute meeting ourselves? Let's talk about some of the issues that we want to do, just the two of us. And we proceeded to go on to talking for about 2.5 hours about some of the issues that are important for the Métis community here in Manitoba and the Red River Métis, and all the wonderful things that they have done in our province for economic development, childcare, housing. There are so many different things that we have been able to work very closely with the Red River Métis on. And I think it's important when we're debating a bill such as this today that we talk about the importance of reconciliation and about economic reconciliation when it comes to our province, and some of the things that we were able to work very closely together on moving forward. And so that was a great and historic meeting, but that meeting didn't end there. There were a number of things that were outlined in that meeting that we could work together on, and it resulted in a number of things that we were able to achieve together as the Red River Métis and the government of Manitoba. And I'm very proud of those times and proud of my colleagues who sat alongside me, and the importance of economic reconciliation in our province and the things that we were able to achieve together. And one of those things was the Métis Economic Development Fund. At the time, the fund was not under Métis control for several years. It was administered through the province of Manitoba, and so we felt that it was very important that through economic reconciliation, our government turned those funds over to the national government of the Red River Métis and signed an agreement, an historic agreement, to transfer control of the Métis Economic Development Fund to the Red River Métis. And that was, the fund offers support to Red River Métis entrepreneurs, allowing them to pursue diverse economic development initiatives right here in Manitoba. And since its inception, the fund has invested nearly $11.3 million into Red River Métis businesses right across this beautiful province of ours, leveraging an additional $28.2 million and creating more than 1,200 jobs in Manitoba. The fund was previously managed by the MEDF Inc., with the Manitoba government and the MMF as the sole members of that fund. But under the new agreement, the Manitoba Economic Development Fund will be dissolved and its assets transferred to the Louis Riel Capital Corporation, an MMF affiliate, which has a mandate to support Métis-owned businesses moving forward. And the transfer of that control gives the Red River Métis greater autonomy over the direction of the fund, and I look forward to seeing the activities of the fund continue to pay off for the Red River Métis and all of those Métis businesses right across this great province of ours. That is true economic reconciliation. Then there was an historic deal between Manitoba Hydro and the Manitoba Métis Federation, again to be used for economic development opportunities for Métis people right across Manitoba. In August, we were proud to see an agreement spanning half a century reached between the Manitoba Métis Federation and Manitoba Hydro. This agreement, called the Revitalization Agreement, is an arrangement meant to address the effects of hydroelectric developments that they've made on Métis and Indigenous people throughout the province and pave the path forward for collaboration. It also promises further economic development opportunities for Métis people into the future. It ensures prosperity, opportunity, and self-determination. And that is also an historic agreement that was achieved not so long ago in the province of Manitoba between Manitoba Hydro and the Manitoba Métis Federation. But there's more, Honourable Speaker. On housing, I know and I can recall when I was Minister responsible for housing in the province of Manitoba, worked very closely with Will Goodon, who is the Minister of Housing for the Manitoba Métis Federation. And we met on several occasions, but I can recall it was near the end of my term as Minister of Families. I wasn't aware of that at the time. Of course, we don't know when cabinet shuffles are coming, Honourable Speaker, but this was just before I ended my time as the Minister of Families. And we were able to, I got a phone call or a text from Minister Goodon, and he was talking to me about two Métis elders who were in need of housing, and he knew of housing development. There are two houses that were owned in Brandon by Manitoba Housing Corporation. And he said, is there something we can do? Can we do that? These are derelict buildings. There's nothing going on with them right now. Is there something we can do? Because we as the Métis would like to take those on to renovate them and offer them to elders in the community. And we thought this is a great partnership. These are buildings that had been derelict for years under the previous NDP government. And of course, we were able to move forward and do that agreement with the Manitoba Métis Federation. And I believe now we see the fruits of that labor, which is elders being able to be housed in homes where they should be, and we were very, very pleased to work with the Manitoba Métis Federation on that front. And I think that there are many, many opportunities, and President Chartrand and I talked about this many times. Many opportunities when it comes to housing in the province of Manitoba. where we can leverage federal dollars and provincial dollars, and yes, even private sector dollars. I know the NDP doesn't like to talk about that, but there are members of our business community who are very interested in helping out in the housing challenges that we face in our communities right now, but also leveraging dollars that were given to the Manitoba Métis Federation. Imagine if we pooled all those resources together, what we could actually achieve together by working together. And so those are some of the discussions that we had with the Manitoba Métis Federation, and we hope that those discussions continue to take place. Also, Deputy Speaker, a little over a year ago, we provided $10 million to help transform downtown Winnipeg's historic Bank of Montreal building into the new Métis Nation Heritage Centre, and I've had the opportunity to visit that building on a few occasions, and I can tell you it is going to be an amazing building once the MMF goes through the renovations and everything to that building. And we were so proud to have the opportunity to contribute to that very important building located at the iconic location of Portage and Main in the city of Winnipeg. And I know President Chartrand said at the time, quote, people are very touched because they believe in this heritage center, quote, and I do believe in it as well, and we believe in it, and that's why we made those investments. And I believe its significance will only grow over the years as it gets established and becomes a celebration of Métis heritage, past, present, and future here in the province of Manitoba. One of the other areas that we were able to work very closely on for many years, and I know during my time as the Minister of Families, we got started on moving this. When Bill C-92 came in by the federal government, we started to work with various First Nation communities as well as the Manitoba Métis Federation, and in the area of child welfare. And you'll see, I'm sure you'll see an announcement soon, and I know the new government will want to take credit for that, but, and that's okay, but there's a lot of work that took place behind the scenes over the years to make this happen, and I think the real credit needs to go to all of those officials who have worked very closely, both on the MMF side and on the government side, as well as the federal government side, who have been working closely to ensure that happens. And so again, I want to congratulate the Manitoba Métis Federation on the hard work and dedication they have done towards protecting the children in their community, and we look forward to seeing that transpire in the future. Another area, of course, is education, and this bill we are debating today includes provisions related to education, but those actions follow the footsteps of our government and taking action that was taken, in fact, last spring. Our PC government and the Manitoba Métis Federation signed a memorandum of understanding on education, which committed both governments to developing a shared, long-term, distinctions-based education strategy to improve the educational outcomes of Red River Métis students here in Manitoba. So those are just some of the areas where I think it's important that we put on the record the areas where we were able to work very closely with President Chartrand and all of his ministers and his government on a collaborative way towards making sure reconciliation and economic reconciliation are able to move forward in the province of Manitoba with Indigenous peoples here. So after the recent provincial election, I think it's important to say that I think it was unfortunate that one of the first acts on this First Nations Premier in the province of Manitoba was to fire a head of the who was Métis. I'll just say that he was Métis. And Michael Swiston, who is a Métis individual, and I think it's unfortunate that he took it upon himself to fire that individual.
Order.
And
I'd like to remind the member to not make reference to matters under advisement.
Okay. Thank you very much for be taken. Deputy Speaker, I appreciate you letting us know about that, and certainly,
Honorable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker, and thank you for reminding us. Of course, the Leader of the Opposition will be having to, I'm sure, apologize at some point for that, but we'll move forward on that front. I think what's really important about this, Deputy Speaker, is that this bill that's before us today is an important one. It will be bestow an honorary title on Louis Riel for the history that he has made in our province. And we on this side of the House are fully supportive of this, and we want to see this bill move forward to committee so we can hear from other members of the community and what this means to them. And I know that there will be other speakers that will want to say a few words on this, but we look forward to passing this through to committee as quickly as possible. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Tyndall Park.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and I'm happy to rise just to put a few words on record here this afternoon. Earlier this month, we commemorated the life of Louis Riel. Riel was a man who brought Manitoba into Confederation and fought to protect his people from encroachments on Métis land. His selfless actions truly demonstrated the reason why he is the father of our great province. With the establishment of the provisional government, Riel knew the danger of the work that he was doing. He was labeled a rebel, a traitor by the Canadian government. What happened at Red River was not a rebellion. It was not an uprising. It was an act of resistance for fundamental rights that we as Manitobans and Canadians enjoy today. Riel trusted that the institutions of government would work for Métis people, and they did not. And that's why, Deputy Speaker, Riel led the charge for an assertion of rights, the right for people who were in favor of joining Confederation, but do so on the terms of equal treatment, of fairness, so that they were not simply ruled over as British subjects. Riel was not only a fighter for rights, but a believer of justice and the rule of law. He wanted to make sure that there were fair rules to govern the Métis, and that power should not and cannot be centralized in the hands of the few. Because when power works for the few and not the many, that is not democracy. Riel was at the forefront of some of the most important conversations that we continue to have today. Conversations about democracy, representation, and voting rights. It was Riel's provisional government that led the charge, and we can thank him for fighting these fundamental rights that we as Manitobans enjoy today. Deputy Speaker, I think about every year for I Love to Read Month and visiting the students. And one of the things that I always do when I go into the schools is I bring 3 or 4 different books. And I explain to all of the students how we're going to read 1, maybe 2 of these books. But before we do, we need to practice democracy. And in order to best do that, we need to have a vote on this. So I explain to all the students how you only get to put up your hand once, and we go through the books first, we read the title, look at the front and the back, we get through them. The students have a firm understanding that they get 1 vote, and they have to make sure that they make their vote count. And that's how we actually ultimately decide what book we're going to read that day for our Love to Read Month. And when I talk to students about democracy, and when I introduce this concept to them and tell them about that's what we do here at the Legislature, where the Golden Boy is, inside the big building, that's what we do. We practice democracy. And we turn this back to Riel. It is because of him. It is because of his fight for justice and for fairness. We recognize the true history of Manitoba. Riel as its founder and a true leader who shaped not only our province, but the entire country for the better. I know each and every one of us here today continue to be inspired and grateful for Riel as a pillar upon which the ideals of Manitoba were built upon as he fought the good fight and paid the ultimate sacrifice for our great province. Thank you, Deputy Speaker, for the opportunity to speak today. And again, I'd like to thank the Premier for bringing forward this legislation.
The Honourable Member for Interlake Gimli.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Yeah, I want to get up and put a few words just about. I live in such an area with such a rich history in the province of Manitoba. So I am from the Arm of St. Laurent. I'm a couple miles out of town, but obviously growing up there my whole entire life in the Arm of St. Laurent, I've become very, very close to many people in St. Laurent as a neighboring town, or one of the closest towns with any major infrastructure, shops, gas pumps, all that good stuff. So I want to recognize a few constituents that have done some great work for the community. And just one of them, and I know I mentioned a bit of in my preamble with the questions earlier today, was that the a group of some elders got together in the community, and Michif has predominantly been a spoken language. It was never ever written down, and it was a combination of different languages, like French, English, Cree, amongst others. And it's quite an interesting language, but it's still spoken. It's still the native tongue, I guess you would use in the area of St. Laurent. And of course, over my history of time, I've worked with many of my friends, I call them, right next door. They have taught me some of the language over the years. Not all good, I'm sure. I'm sure I've learned some of the bad words that they know as well, but it's still part of the language that they speak there at home. But I want to recognize the three elders that have done the work to take that spoken language and actually put it in writing and make a dictionary, a Michif dictionary. And all those locals are from Oak Point, St. Laurent, and area. So that's great work. It's about preserving our culture. It doesn't matter what cultural background you have. It's very important that you preserve your culture to ensure that you can pass that on to the future generations that come behind you. And part of that culture is, well, a lot of cultures, from fishing and trapping, through the Métis heritage. Fishing is one commercial fishing, as you're aware, but it's on Lake Manitoba. It's predominantly through the ice. It's not open water fishing, with the exception of a short carp season in the spring. But it's still none of it is out of boats. It's all either seine net or gill nets through the ice. And the amount of time that the community spends out on the ice collectively, I couldn't even imagine to add it up. But St. Laurent would have the largest commercial fishermen around the lake of Lake Manitoba, and as part of their heritage. A lot of them, they work all summer, whether it's pipeline or gas or construction. And then they don't just sit at home and do nothing. Their feet get itchy as we're sitting there right now. Fishermen drive out to the lake every single day to see how far the ice is out. And when it's out far enough, they walk out and they take their needle bar and they test a few holes to see how thick the ice is, to see if it's safe for them to go out and practice what they've learned from their fathers and grandfathers and mothers and grandmothers that have all gone out on the lake fishing. And I would argue it's part of the heritage rather than a winter job. It's just so nice to see. And as a matter of fact, one of my friends offered me to come out commercial fishing with them one year. And we went out, and I thought the ice was a little thin, but you know, these are the experienced people I'm with, and they have done this historically for generations. But this specific individual had probably been on the lake for, at that time, probably well over 30 years. They went out with his father when he was young, and grandfather when he was very young, and practiced that. And so we went out, and apparently the ice was thick enough to bring out an ice auger, a gas-powered ice auger, rather than just a needle bar. And we went out. My job was to go drill some holes, so I was excited. Sure, I'll go drill some holes. I've used an ice auger before. And I go there and pull the cord, and it starts first pull, like everything's in prime shape at the beginning of the season. First pull, I don't think it made 2 spins, and the ice auger went through the ice. We're on about 2 inches of ice. So I'm looking around thinking, oh my goodness, this is pretty thin. Nobody around me is panicked at all, so okay, I continue on. The fisher that I went out with, he starts pulling his drawstring, and that's the string that's attached, that comes through the hole and is attached down to the net that sinks underneath the ice. And as he pulls that drawstring tight, the drawstring is slowly going into the hole. And I thought to myself, never commercial fishing before, I thought to myself, oh my goodness, there must be a lot of fish in that net. They're pulling the net in. I was mistaken, Madam Deputy Speaker, I was mistaken. What had happened, the lake wasn't frozen across yet, and it was a south wind, and the piece of ice that we were on just broke free and started floating out into the lake with us on it. Of course, probably a little panicked. We loaded up everything that we could, and at that time of the year, when it isn't as safe as later on in the year, they actually carry a boat on top of their sleigh. Talking about Métis heritage. Wow.
Jeez, unbelievable.
Can I continue? So obviously, out with my my neighboring community that was a Métis fisherman, and again about their heritage, where Riel used to come to all the time. We were out on this piece of ice that is now drifting off of shore. This was very concerning. We were fortunate that as the ice drifted by a point, we were able to make it out back onto shore. Not everybody on that piece of ice was that fortunate, so they had to get rescued, for lack of a better term. But again, the heritage is so rich, the Métis heritage, and it all started way, way back in the day. And Louis Riel, as a matter of fact, used to come up to St. Laurent quite often, but he often hid out when he was being sought after by authorities. He would hide out in Oak Point, which is my hometown, as I mentioned earlier, that is right beside the town of St. Laurent, but still within the municipality of St. Laurent. And so obviously the heritage is very, very, very thick there. Now, a lot of our community members get together as well, and they do the ride to Batoche every year, and I think we all know the importance and relevance of the Métis history and the Battle of Batoche. And I've never been able to do the whole entire ride, but I have done little sections of it in the past. So for those of you in the house that are unaware, my first wife was a Métis heritage, obviously from St. Laurent, God rest her soul. But our children are of Métis heritage, and they recognize the importance of their heritage as well, and including so much as taking up fiddling and a couple other things. And the School of St. Laurent actually teaches fiddling right in the school. It's part of the curriculum that you could take fiddling as a portion of your curriculum. So that's outstanding about maintaining your heritage. It doesn't matter what ethnic background you are, but it's very, very important that you maintain your heritage. And that's what we're talking about here today, about recognizing and ensuring that our heritage is there for all those that follow us to learn from. And I think this act today will put in writing the importance of Louis Riel and recognizing him honorary first Premier of Manitoba. And it's important that we continue to teach that in the school. On many occasions, obviously being from St. Laurent, I've had the opportunity to bump into many, many cabinet ministers from the Red River Métis, obviously, because a lot of them are from St. Laurent. So, including Mona Beers, she's been a huge asset and advocate for Métis heritage, and communicates obviously directly with David Chartrand on what I would assume would be almost a daily basis. But St. Laurent is so important. They have right now, obviously, it's a municipality, so they have reeve and council, and historically the last two reeves have been of Métis descent as well. And I used to serve on the RM of St. Laurent, and obviously with my colleagues who were Métis at the time as well. And usually the makeup of the community council is about 80% Métis. But getting back to some of the heritage and some of the classes you can take, fiddling, for example, is one that my daughter has signed up and learned some fiddling back in the day. I'm not sure she's stuck with it too much. When she picks up the fiddle, it doesn't necessarily sound like Mark Morso or anybody like that. It's probably she needs to practice a little bit more. But Métis is such a mixed culture from back in the day, and that's what it's about. That specific mixture that have settled in St. Laurent is outstanding. But again, it's so outstanding that there was an exhibit that was made in the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C. And it is now returned. It was there for, I think, 12 or 13 years. It is returned back to the community. And we have been working together with them to try and build a museum or a space to display the exhibit that was in the Smithsonian. Originally, it was only supposed to be there for, just a few years, but it was so popular that they kept it for well over a decade. And so that's something to be proud of for the local community. And I have visited the Smithsonian, but it was gone already by the time I visited, so I wasn't able to actually see it in person while it was in the Smithsonian. Now, obviously, with fishing, it's very important to ensure that the Métis fishermen are treated equitably, and I think that's one thing that is left out of the gas tax bill, is the fishermen will not be able to benefit from a tax holiday. The purple gas that they burn in their off-road vehicles is actually, they pay 3 cents a liter on that. And I don't think that is fair for the Métis community members that we all appreciate so much. So Louis Riel was the founder, obviously, and the Métis heritage still runs very thick in my community. And to all the people, all my constituents, I want to say thank you for keeping the heritage alive. It's so important, including now the 3 members, one has passed, that put the dictionary together to ensure that the spoken language is not lost. It is now going to be obviously in black and white in a book that anybody can pick up and start reintroducing their culture, including my kids. My kids are absolutely very interested in their Métis culture, and this will help them ensure that they can pass it on to their kids. But on that, Honorable Speaker, Madam Deputy Speaker's gone, so out of the chair, but I'm not going to reflect whether she's still in the chamber because I'll get called on that. But Honorable Speaker, I would like to rest on saying it's just thank my constituents for doing such a great job on maintaining the Métis culture in the Interlake.
The honourable member from Lagimodiere.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. It's an absolute honor to rise and speak to this bill. My great-great-grandma, her name is Octavie Riel. She's actually Louis Riel's youngest sister. And so, yeah, fun fact. So this bill means a lot to me personally, for my family, but also for my community. My great-great-grandpa, Louis David Lavallee, was actually one of the people who went to Regina to retrieve Louis Riel's body after he was hung. So this means a lot to me. This bill is important because Louis Riel played such a foundational role in establishing Manitoba, but also bringing Manitoba into Confederacy. They established the Métis, in 1869, he led the Métis people in establishing the Red River Settlement. In this provisional government, they adopted a list of rights based on multicultural, bilingual, and inclusive vision of a province that respected the rights of Indigenous people. We're still here working for that. The list of rights was accepted by the Government of Canada, so in an act of government to government, bringing this provisional government into Confederacy as the basis for the Manitoba Act in 1870 and the establishment of Manitoba as a province. Louis Riel himself submitted the name Manitoba, and it was chosen by the Government of Canada as the name for the province. The name Manitoba is derived from Cree Manitou Wapau or Ojibwe Manaduba, both meaning Straits of Manitoba, the Great Spirit. Louis Riel was forward-thinking in his vision, and he's a true Canadian hero. He struggled to protect the rights and freedoms of his people and has helped make Canada the great nation it is admired as of today. Given Louis Riel's vast contributions to Manitoba and the province, the government should therefore support this bill, or the opposition should support this bill, and bestow the honorary title of the first Premier of Manitoba onto Louis Riel. Members of the provisional government were drawn from First Nations, French, English, Irish, Scottish, and Métis communities. In some ways, I feel like our caucus today is representative in the same way as that initial provisional government. Louis Riel was undoubtedly a notable figure in both Manitoba and Canadian history. He embodies the struggles of Métis, First Nations, and Francophone peoples across Canada, the racial tensions between white settlers and Indigenous peoples as a devout Catholic, the religious history of Manitoba playing a huge role in his upbringing and his career. So he actively sought negotiation into Confederacy, and as I said, Riel drafted one of Canada's first Bills of Rights. It was sought to protect French language rights, which makes him a huge hero to Francophone communities across Canada. It also included rights to education and property rights for the Métis. So no matter your opinion on the man, there's no disputing that he helped shape the province we know today. Across Canada, in numerous communities, Riel is commemorated in many different ways, with streets, schools, neighborhoods. Examples in Manitoba include the landmark Esplanade Riel, pedestrian bridge linking Old St. Boniface with Winnipeg, the Louis Riel School Division, the Louis Riel statue right outside, Louis Riel Avenue in Old St. Boniface, Riel Avenue in Vitals Minnetonka neighborhood, and even on Keeping It Riel t-shirts sold at Festival du Voyageur. Riel is also recognized as a martyr for Métis and Francophone peoples in Canada, given his constant fight to have their rights recognized. As a founding peoples of Canada, the Métis have much to be proud of. Riel's contributions to the establishment and development of the early Métis are integral to today's Métis community. And when you hear folks from the MMF, David Chartrand, Anita Campbell, different active members in the Métis community, Riel is constantly referenced as a key political figure in Métis politics, but also the founding of our province. The rights that were established through that first Bill of Rights extended all the way into the Northwest Territories and also extended to the settlers there. These demands included an elected legislature, representation in federal parliament, official status for both French and English, and an economic plan for the Métis. Riel's forward-thinking vision formed the foundation of the Manitoba Act of 1870, which brought our province into confederation and provided language, religious, and schooling rights for both French and English-speaking Manitobans. Years ago, our government recognized the third Monday in February as Louis Riel Day in honor of the significant place Louis Riel and the Métis people hold in our province's territory. By embracing Riel's devotion to social justice, diversity, and liberty, we can ensure that all Manitobans have an opportunity to share fully and equally the benefits of life in our province. As an educator, I can speak to the importance education can play and the role this bill will play in furthering the vital education of people from across the province, and particularly in our school systems. It will give us an opportunity to introduce Michif in an important way into schools through the teaching and history of Louis Riel and the Métis people in the province. It'll give young Manitobans an insight and appreciation to Riel's vital contributions to building the foundation of our province. Although Riel hasn't been recognized as Manitoba's first premier, he has often been recognized as a founder of Manitoba. In his role as president of the Legislative Assembly of Assiniboia, he essentially acted as premier before Manitoba's Confederation in 1870. By learning about Louis Riel, Manitoba students will learn about the history of our province, the Métis people, and language rights. This bill embraces Riel's devotion to social justice, diversity, and liberty, and his belief that all Manitobans should have an opportunity to share fully and equally in the benefits of life in the province. In the establishment of February 20th as the Louis Riel Day in Manitoba, we went to the people and we sought out advice, and Louis Riel Day was the day that came forward. Names were submitted, had to be relevant to Manitoba, and reference our history. Riel was the name that came forward in the end. Unlike holidays in other provinces, Louis Riel Day is unique to Manitoba, and the name itself reflects the history and culture of our great province and the importance of Louis Riel. In fact, Louis Riel Day in the rest of Canada is often recognized as November 16th, the day of Louis Riel's murder. Our diversity makes us stronger today and every day. We pay tribute to the pride and strong spirit of Métis communities that have fought so hard to have Louis Riel recognized as Manitoba's first premier. We strengthen our multicultural roots by making and acknowledging this change and recognizing Louis Riel as that first premier. This is something all Manitobans should be proud of and should celebrate, and nothing the province of Manitoba is on, and something the province of Manitoba is honored and proud to support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well done.
Are there any other speakers? The honorable member for Seine River.
Thank you. Honorable Speaker, I'm proud to rise and speak to this bill. As a Métis woman who grew up in a family where she was told to hide her identity because of the marginalization and racism she would face, I am so proud to stand on this side of the House and do what is right, to bring truth and reconciliation to a province that desperately needs it. As a teacher,
I already know that students are learning in the classroom that Louis Riel is the founding father of Manitoba, that he was our first premier, that he fought for our rights, not only for Métis citizens, but for all Manitobans. I stand here and bring voice to people who have not had a voice. I stand proudly to talk about my grandmother, a Métis woman who went to residential school, who spent 2 years in a school, and eventually grew up on a trap line. A woman who couldn't read or write, who experienced poverty and hard times most of her life. A woman who was proud to be Métis but couldn't tell the world who she was. She instilled the values in me that I carry today, to be a person who can be proud of who they are, openly. By proclaiming Louis Riel the honorary first premier of Manitoba, we are finally telling the truth. We are finally showing Canada who our true first leader was. Manitobans deserve to have that honor. Métis people deserve to have that truth be told. For too long, we have listened to the words of colonizers in this country, in our classrooms, in our places of government, in our places of worship, in our places in the business community. I stand here and say no more. Reconciliation happens at the highest levels. Reconciliation is taking place, and it's about time. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers? The Honourable Minister of Economic Development, Investment, Trade and Natural Resources.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Just want to put a few brief comments on the record with respect to this important piece of legislation, which would make Louis Riel the honorary first premier of Manitoba. It's really important that we take this step, as was outlined by the premier in his opening comments of this bill, to really make this significant, historic milestone and honor that we bestow on Louis Riel because of its relevance in today's society. As before I begin my comments, I'd just like to really honor and lift up the folks who spoke before me across the chamber, but specifically the folks who have very deep and rich connections with Métis culture and heritage. And I want to specifically honor and thank my colleague, the member for St. River, for their wonderful and profound words in the chamber, as well as my colleague for the member for Lagimodiere, who obviously not only brings the historical perspective, having the personal family connection to Louis Riel, but also has that great honor of representing a community where Riel had his family grew up and spent time in. And so the point I want to make with respect to this bill is that the reason it's significant for folks right across Manitoba, regardless of their background, whether they come from Métis or other communities, is because this bill brings hope. This bill brings hope to the entire province. This is a type of bill that can unite us around the idea that regardless of where we come from, regardless of the community that we subscribe to, regardless of the part of the province where we live, we can come together and recognize that as a people, we are greater than together than we are apart. That's the ideals that Louis Riel brought into the work that he did every single day. The important work of establishing the framework of the province that we call home. Establishing that framework by bringing people together from different walks of life across this province, from different walks of life across this country, around the idea that Manitoba could be its own community, its own people, that the Métis people could be their own people and stand on their own and live on their own and thrive on their own. And the idea that we could do this all together as one people, as part of one nation, Canada. And that's the ideal that Louis Riel brought into the work that he did. the legacy that he had. And that's why it's important that we bestow this honorary title on him today. And so I'm pleased to be working alongside the colleagues on this government side of the House to advance this progress of bringing hope to our community forward. I'm proud to be doing it alongside colleagues who have the deep personal connection, the ones who have experienced types of either hate or oppression, and can push past through them. The same way Louis Riel did. When he faced obstacles, he pushed past through them. And he, at the other side, became a leader who we look to as having a vision, a strong vision for what we could all be as a better people in Manitoba here. And this is the sort of thing that we know affect people from across different walks of life. Whether you have a background in agriculture, or whether you had a background in the far north in Manitoba, whether you come from a community that was passionate on education or finance, or whether you're from a newcomer community, you can see the type of legacy that Louis Riel left in this province, and you can be inspired by it. And that's why I say, Honorable Speaker, that this bill does more than just bestow the title of Honorary First Premier on Louis Riel. It brings us a new hope in our daily lives and in the communities that we currently exist in. And I just want to bring out one example, Honorary Speaker, about how in my community this is something that is it can be very personal and very impactful in our daily communities, in the spaces that we exist in and commute in and live in every day. Honorable Speaker, I had the pleasure a few years ago to go on a bike tour of my community alongside the member for Riel. The two of us went on a guided bike tour with wonderful tour guide Denis DePape, and who took us on a tour of the historic sites in our community where the Riel family lived, worked, and played and existed. Now, this bike tour went through and zigzagged and carved its way through the constituencies of La Modière and the constituency of Riel. And it gave us a real sense of the life of the Riel family, of where Louis Riel would have grew up and places where he existed with his family, to help us understand where we are and where we are situated in our own communities with respect to how Louis Riel and his family lived and worked. And this really hit home for us about how we intersect and interact with the natural space in our area and how it impacts how we think and how it frames our understanding as a community. And so I'm very grateful to be part of a team led by the nation's first First Nations Premier to introduce a bill like this, and recognizing the significant connection that our Premier feels to that same connection that Louis Riel had as being a leader and president of an executive council. And so I'm honored that our Premier has introduced this bill. I'm so pleased that our team is fully supportive of this bill. I am, with open heart, grateful of my colleagues who shared their stories and their experiences and their connection with the Métis community and with this bill specifically. And I'm hopeful that all members in this chamber and all Manitobans can seek passage of this bill, can be excited about this, and let this be the way that we can unite our province into the future together.
Are there any other speakers? Seeing none, is the House ready for the question? The question before the House is second reading of Bill number 2, the Louis Riel Act. Is it the pleasure of the House to adopt the motion? Agreed. Agreed, and so ordered. The Honourable Minister of Justice.
I'd seek leave of the House to call at 5 o'clock.
Their leave of the House to call at 5 o'clock. Leave has been denied. The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I'd like to move a motion that the House now adjourn. I move, seconded by the Minister of Finance, that this House now adjourn.
Been moved by the Honourable Justice Minister, seconded by the Minister of Finance, that this House now adjourn. It's the pleasure of the House to adopt the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Nay. I believe the ayes have it. The official opposition House Leader.
Here, here.
Recorded vote has been called. Call in the member.
Lazy socialists.
The question before the House is the motion moved by the Honourable Minister of Justice that the House now adjourn. So, all those in the chamber in favor, please rise.
Work to be done.
Honorable Minister Fontaine.
Honourable Minister Fontaine.
Honorable Minister Asagora.
Honourable Minister Asagora.
Honorable Minister Costician.
Honourable Mr. Costician.
Honorable Miss Smith.
Honourable Ms. Smith.
Honorable Minister Marcelino.
Honourable Minister Marcelino.
Honorable Minister Schmidt.
Honourable Minister Schmidt.
Honorable Minister Cable.
Honourable Minister Cable.
MLA Sandu.
MLA Sandu.
Mrs. Schott.
Mrs. Schott.
MLA Redhead.
MLA Redhead.
MLA Malloway.
MLA Malloway.
Mr. Blaschko.
Mr. Blaschko.
MLA Chen.
MLA Chen.
MLA Moyes.
MLA Moyes.
MLA Pankratz.
MLA Pankratz.
MLA Kennedy.
MLA Kennedy.
MLA Devgun.
MLA Devgun.
MLA Cross.
MLA Cross.
Mr. Oxenham.
Mr. Oxenham.
Miss Dela Cruz.
Ms. Dela Cruz.
Mr. Brar.
Mr. Brar.
MLA Moros.
MLA Moroz.
Mr. Vasiliu.
Mr. Vasiliev.
All those in the chamber opposed, please rise.
Miss Stephenson.
Ms. Stephenson.
Mr. Gertson.
Mr. Gertson.
Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Owasco.
Mr. Owasco.
Mr. Pinwick.
Nope.
Sorry. Mr. Wharton.
Mr. Wharton.
Mr. Nesbitt.
Mr. Nesbitt.
MLA Khan.
MLA Khan.
Mrs. Cook.
Mrs. Cook.
Mrs. Stone.
Mrs. Stone.
Mrs. Hebert.
Mrs. Hebert.
Miss Byram.
Ms. Byram.
Mr. Balkan.
Mr. Balkan.
Mr. Wochuk.
Mr. Wochuk.
MLA Pariza.
MLA Bariza.
Mr. Narth.
Mr. Narth.
Mr. King.
Mr. King.
Mr. Jackson.
Mr. Jackson.
Mr. Prashut.
Mr. Prashot.
MLA Lamoureux.
MLA Lamoureux.
We will now conduct the alphabetical roll call of members participating virtually. And as a reminder to all virtual members, please respond clearly with either I vote yes or I vote no, only when your name is called. I would also remind members to unmute their mics only when they are recognized and then immediately mute it again once they have declared the vote.
Honorable Minister Altamare.
I vote yes. Honorable Mr. Altamare votes yes.
MLA Loisel.
I vote yes. MLA Loisel votes yes. Thank you.
Good job.
Yeas 25, nays 19.
The motion is accordingly passed, and accordingly this House is adjourned and stands adjourned until 1:30 p.m. tomorrow.
Should have said that. Good times, good times.